check 1 2, and we check 1 2, and we check 1 2, and we check 1 2.
Very reactor coolant pressure and pressurizer level is lowering rapidly.
Cody, trip the reactor and enter EOP2.
Understand trip reactor, enter emergency operating procedure 2.
That is correct.
Reactor push button is depressed. Control rod drive groups 1 through 7 are fully inserted. Nuclear instruments indicate the reactor is shut down. Depressing turbine trip push button. Throttle valves and governor valves are closed. Emergency operating 2 immediate actions are complete.
Understand, immediate actions are complete.
That's correct.
The reactor trip push button is depressed.
That's correct.
Verify control rod drive groups 1 through 7 are fully inserted.
Control rod drive groups 1 through 7 are fully inserted.
Understand, control rod groups 1 through 7 are fully inserted.
That's correct.
Verify nuclear instruments indicate reactor is shut down.
Nuclear instruments indicate the reactor is shut down.
Understand, nuclear instruments indicate the reactor is shut down.
That's correct.
Depress main turbine trip push button.
Main turbine trip push button is depressed.
Understand, main turbine trip push button is depressed.
That's correct.
At this point, the operating crew is following procedures designed to deal with the incident. The equipment that is being operated remotely from the control room is functioning as it should. The operators are going about their business and dealing with the incident.
Do we have inadequate subcooling margin?
We have an adequate subcooling margin.
I agree we have inadequate subcooling margin.
Understand, we have inadequate subcooling margin. Attention, the control room. We are entering emergency operating procedure number 3, inadequate subcooling margin.
Understand emergency operating procedure number 3, inadequate subcooling margin.
Understand emergency operating procedure number 3, inadequate subcooling margin. Okay, Mary, makeup pump 1 Charlie's started. Looks like amps are fluctuating, so makeup pump 1 Charlie's cavitating.
Understand, secure makeup pump 1 Charlie.
Makeup pump 1 Charlie just tripped.
Understand, makeup pump 1 Charlie has tripped.
That's correct.
We have no high pressure injection trains available this time.
That's correct.
I think we have a problem.
What the operator didn't know when he turned that switch was that about 3 months ago, out in the plant, someone had seen a valve open that they thought should be closed. They didn't check their procedures. They simply took action to close the valve. Let's go back to the control room and look at another way this event might have happened.
Brandon, engineered safeguards selected makeup pumps and required cooling pumps running.
Okay, Mary, there's no power. Makeup pump 1 Bravo and makeup pump 1 Charlie failed to start.
Understand, there's no power to makeup pump 1 Bravo and makeup pump 1 Charlie failed to start.
That's correct.
What the operator saw was a loss of power. He didn't know why. Here's what happened out in the plant sometime in the past.
Are you sure that's the right fuse?
Well, not really, but hey, I think that's what the procedure said. And hey, man, it's time to go home. Let's put, yeah, it's the right fuse. It's the right fuse. Let's go home.
Yeah, let's go.
And so, you think this configuration control is silly business? Well, Professor Config Control says it's not.
We sometimes think of configuration control as applying only to people who actually perform hands-on work in the plant. Is that true? Let's go back to the control room and take a look at another scenario.
Do we have inadequate subcooling margin?
We have an adequate subcooling margin.
I agree we have inadequate subcooling margin.
Understand, we have inadequate subcooling margin. Attention, the control room. We are entering emergency operating procedure number 3, inadequate subcooling margin.
Understand emergency operating procedure number 3, inadequate subcooling margin.
Understand emergency operating procedure number 3, inadequate subcooling margin.
It appears I don't have a page of EOP3, inadequate subcooling margin. Tony, could you find me a copy of EOP3, inadequate subcooling margin, please?
We often think of configuration control as applying only to people who operate or manipulate equipment in the plant. But
What about the engineer who designs a component? The person who purchases that component? The warehouse where it's issued? The person who installs the component? The person who manipulates plant equipment in the field? The person who writes the procedures or records those procedures? Configuration control is the responsibility of everyone who has a part in operating a nuclear plant.
The video you have just seen makes light of a serious plant transient condition to emphasize the importance of configuration control. Hopefully, our operating crews will never have to face this kind of event. But if they do, we want to ensure the plant is in a known condition and capable of responding as per design. Each of you plays an important role in configuration control. Before you make any change to plant equipment or manipulate plant components, ask yourself some very basic questions. Does this change make sense? Is it covered by a procedure, equipment alteration log, or within the bounds of a clearance? If not, who has approved this change and why? What will ensure the restoration of the component to its required position? If you are making a change to a drawing or procedure, treat it as if you're manipulating a component within the plant. Someone may be. The plant is designed to operate safely with redundant safety systems. Understanding and practicing configuration control by each of us will ensure that we maintain the design and thus the inherent safety of our plant. Thank you.